Hi friends, welcome back to my quilt room. And if you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by. Today I have a fun block. It's called No Point Star Block. Now, why is it called No Point Star Block? Here's the block, and yes, our stars definitely have points. But the beauty of this block is that you don't have to worry about the 1/4 inch at the top to make sure that you don't cut your points off. So if the star is smaller than the block. So that's why they call it no points. Because even I struggle with that 1/4 inch up here to make sure I don't cut my points off. So I'm going to show you how to make this today. Now this is fat quarter friendly, but you can use yardage because you're really only cutting 3-inch and 4-inch blocks. So you could use either or. Now I happen to have a fat quarter bundle Christmas fabrics, so that's what I'm going to use today. And this is totally beginner friendly also. Now I will put the link in the description below. I got this as a free pattern from Cluck Sew, so I'll make sure that I put that link below. So I hope you'll stay tuned and let's get started. Okay, so I have 2 fat quarters here. Now this pattern does call for fat quarters, but you don't have to use fat quarters because all we're really going to do is cut 3-inch and 4-inch strips. That's it. So you can definitely cut this out of yardage. But since it called for fat quarters and I happen to have this Christmas fat quarter pattern, I thought I would use it for this pattern. So what we're going to do is, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to square these up and then how to cut them. So I'm going to line these 2 up. And I want to cut my selvage off first. And I'm going to square the whole thing up. So first thing I want to do is get rid of the selvages. Now, as you can see, not all fat quarters are created equal. This is definitely longer than that one. So I'm actually going to put that one on the bottom and put this one on top so I can actually see where I'm cutting. So let me line this up. I'm going to try to get as much as I can in line. Okay, I think that's good. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that selvage off. So I'm just going to line my selvage up with one of the lines on my mat, so I know I'm getting the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line that up with the line that goes right past my selvage. And what I like to do is I like to take my 1-inch mark and line that up with the inch mark before that, so I know I'm going to fall right on that line. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this off. Okay, so now I have that side straight. And now I want to straighten this bottom. So I'm going to move this down just a little bit so that I have at least one part of it on that line. Okay, so I'm going to cut on this line here. And again, I'm going to line that 1-inch mark up with the line above that, so I know I'm going to fall in this line here. Okay, now I know that's straight. Now I'm going to come over to here, and it looks like this is right above this line here. So I'm going to shift this down a little. So I don't have to take too much off. And I want to make sure that green is around this line here. Making sure I line this up. Okay, that looks good to me. So now I'm going to straighten this side. And now I'm going to cut this side. Right, so now I have 3 sides straightened up. And now I'm going to straighten this top piece. And it looks like I can, if I have enough, slightly below. So I want to just bring this up just a little bit. Making sure I don't make this unstraightened. Okay, so that looks good. And then I'm going to cut this off. Okay, so now I have my fat quarter all straightened up. Now, the pattern calls for cutting 2 3-inch strips and 2 4-inch strips. So I only really need 14 inches. And I have, looks like I have about a little less than 18. So I should have plenty. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my first 4-inch strip. I'll line that up at the bottom. I'm going to cut that. Okay, so that is actually a 5-inch strip. Luckily, I will have enough room to fix this, but sometimes that happens. So let me go back to my 4-inch. Okay, so that's my 4-inch strip. And now, because I made a mistake, I need to get that 1-inch strip out of the way. So I will line this up. And cut that off. And sadly, we can't use that. But maybe I can use it for something else. Luckily, I have enough room that I can do that. Now, if I didn't have enough room, then I would be in a lot of trouble. But we're going to be just fine. All right, so now I'm going to do my second 4-inch strip. Now I'm going to do my 3-inch strip. Okay. And my next 3-inch strip. Bring this down a little bit. Line it up with that line. And cut 3 inches. Okay. Now, if I didn't make that mistake, I would have been able to get another 3-inch strip out of this. But sadly, that happens. Now, someone did ask me one time, like how when I'm cutting a lot of fabric, how I don't make that mistake of going on the wrong line. And what you can do is, and I didn't do this, what I do is sometimes I'll take washi tape and on the back of my ruler, I will lay a piece of washi tape right at that, say, 3-inch mark right here. So that when I'm measuring my fabric, I know that's the line I want to be on. But because I'm doing 3 and 4 inch strips at the same time, I didn't do that. But that is a good way to make sure that you're going to get the right amount each time. So now we're going to subcut these. So here's my 1 3-inch strip that has 2 fabrics, and then here's my other. So I'm going to line these up. And then we're going to subcut this. I want to make sure that I am getting it all in there. So now I'm going to take my smaller ruler and I'm going to put this on my 3-inch mark. And I'm going to subcut that. And I'm just going to continue to go down and cut all my squares. And this one's too small. Okay. Now the pattern calls for only cutting 4 from each fat quarter. And I will put a picture of this up. And we cut, so instead of scrapping that extra, I cut as many as I can. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I got 12 out of each strip. So now we're going to do our 4-inch. Make sure these are lined up. And again, I'm going to layer these. Okay. And then I'm going to cut 4 inches. Now, luckily, this is a 4-inch ruler, so I don't have to worry too much. Here's 1. That's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's all we have left for this one. All right, so there's all my blocks. Now what we're going to do is, I have already cut a bunch of fabric up. Some of these are fat quarters, some of these I had as yardage. So again, you can use either because you're just cutting 3-inch and 4-inch strips. Right here. So if we take a look at that block again, what we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of a background. Now you could do a dark background, you could do a light background. Here's one with the dark. And I did a lighter star point. So since I have this, I just cut, I'm going to use this one. Let me just separate these real quick. Okay, so I think I'm going to do this green. So let me move some of these out of the way. Give myself a little bit more room. Now you're going to lay it out just like a 9 patch. Okay. Now this I think is directional, but I don't think you'll notice if it's upside down. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so now I need a center and my star points. And they could be the same, or they could be scrappy like this. Like I use 2 different fabrics on each one. So what I think I'll do is, and I think I might use this red. So there we go. Now for our star points, I'll do this one. Now for the star points, you can do a couple things. You need 2 for each block. And you're just going to do these 4 center blocks. Okay, now you can fold your star points in half because we're going to sew down the middle. Or you can just take a pen, take your ruler, and draw a line from corner to corner because you're going to be sewing on that line. So whatever you're more comfortable with. Sometimes, like if you do it this way and you put it on here, you're going to sew straight down that line. Now, if you're uncomfortable with following that line, again, do it this way, however you want to do it. So I'm going to finish drawing my lines and then I will show you how we're going to sew this. Okay, so I have all my lines drawn, and what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of these to the machine, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to sew that and how to cut it, because we have to cut it prior to sewing the second one on, but I'll show you that as soon as we go to the machine. So let's do that. Okay, so we are at the machine, and now what I want to do is I want to take one of these on one side, and you want to lay it so that when you fold this back, you're creating your star point. And then the other one will go on this side, so that will create our 2 star points. So for right now, we want to take this, I'm going to line this up. Okay, I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot. Now, one trick that I have learned when you're doing these is that you want to sew like a stitch inside towards this point where you fold it. So you want to go like 1 stitch on the other side of that line. And the reason for that is when you fold this over, it kind of guarantees you that you're definitely going to meet. So I'll show you that when I'm done. So I want to line this up so that that hits on the other side of that line. Okay, so if you take a look, I am right on the other side of the line. So now when I fold this over, it guarantees, I gotta iron it though, it guarantees that I'm going to line up exactly on that fabric, so that it's not sitting like this where I'm a little short. It's going to go exactly to the end. So that just gives you just a little wiggle room there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron this real quick, and I have a little iron next to me. because the thing is, you have to cut this off before you can sew the next one. So now what I'm going to do is I have a little mat here. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to put it on the 1/4 inch on that sew line. So that, it's a bad angle, but I'm going to make sure that that 1/4 inch is right on that sew line, and then I'm going to cut that off. And I'll show you why we're going to do that. Now you can save this if you want. What I've really been doing, to be honest, and I don't really work with like really teeny little blocks, but I thought you never know. So I've been just sewing these right away. And it makes a perfect, I think I measured it, 2 1/4 inch little block. Pick up your little points off. How cute is that? So I figured you never know. And obviously I have been sewing, sewing a lot, so I have a bunch of them. So now what I want to do is I want to take this back and I'm going to put the next one on. And I always have to fold this so I can see which way I'm going. Okay. I want to go this way. I'll line that up carefully. Put them straight there and here. Now the reason we had to cut that off was because once you sew this and then you fold it, you're not going to be able to put that down so I can show you. You're not going to be able to fold this up to be able to cut that all the way down. See how it's sewn here? So that's why you have to cut this first. Okay. So again, I'm just going to sew right on the inside that line. And then we're going to fold that over and cut that off. Line my 1/4 inch up with my sew line. Cut that off. There we go. And now we have our star points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the rest of these 3, and then I will show you how we're going to connect that to the rest of the block. So I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have our points all sewn down, and I'm going to lay this out. And I did manage to keep all the directional print going the right way. Nope, that goes there. Nope, that's it. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to sew this just like a 9 patch. So I'm just going to take this right side, lay it on top of here. I'm going to sew this down 1/4 inch. And then once I do that, in fact, what I usually like to do is just clip it and open it up and put this side on. Clip that also. And now when I take it to the machine, I can just do this side, flip it over, and do this side, and it's already lined up. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take it to the machine, sew my 1/4 inch on both sides, and then I will be right back. Okay, so now we have those all sewn down, and looks like that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to iron this so that our seams are going the opposite direction so we can nest these together. So I usually take my middle one and put them on the inside. And then this one is going to go that way. And this one is also going to go that way. Okay, and usually the method I have for doing for which direction is I usually try to iron my seams in the direction where there's no other seams interfering with it. So like if I was to do it this way, then you have this kind of bulk right here. So that's the way I try to look at it. So like this has no other seams here. So that's how I do that. Oops, wrong way. Okay, so now what we want to do is just sew these together like our next step of a 9-patch. And we're going to nest those seams for each one of them. And I'm going to sew that, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this one. So I'm going to take care of that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have that all sewn down, and I'm just going to press this real quick. Okay, so there's our star. Yeah, this one. So there's our star block. As you could see, you have plenty of room above this that you don't have to worry about cutting those points off. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my batting and backing together, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to quilt this. Okay, so I have my batting and my backing, and here's my block top. And what you want to do is first you want to decide what type of quilt as you go you want to do. Do you want to do sashing? Do you want to do no sashing at all? Or do you want to do maybe no sashing on the front, but maybe use the cover strips on the back? You need to decide that because that will determine what size batting you're going to use. So for myself, I want to do sashing in between mine. And I really like this little star pattern. So that's what I'm going to do. So to make my quilt sandwich, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my backing. Now I cut these at a generous 12 inches because our block should finish at 11 inches when we get done. So I want to make sure I have plenty of room around my block. And you can certainly cut yours a little smaller if you wanted to, but I always like to make sure I have enough. And then I'm going to put my top one here. And what I did was I just simply took this and I did some sort of echo quilting just around the star points. And then I stitch in the ditch around this block in the middle. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do a little basting here because I don't want this to move. So just a tiny bit there. And then I'm going to take this to the machine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my stitch in the ditch foot on and follow the ditch right here, but move my needle over a little bit so that it sort of goes right alongside. So I'll show you when I get to my machine how I do that. So let's take this to the sewing machine and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have my stitch in the ditch foot in, and this is what it looks like. It's got this little bar right in the middle here, which is what you use to run right down your seam line here. And then it has a wide opening here so that you can really move your needle either way that you want. If you were doing stitch in the ditch directly, you would just leave the needle in the middle and it would sit right in that um, little loop. Kind of got a loop there. So I'm going to put that in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this underneath. I'm going to drop my foot right in the seam line right here. And I'm just going to move my needle over to where I think I want to put it. And then I usually just bring my needle down to see where it's going to hit. And that looks pretty good to me. So I have that all set up. I'm going to start at somewhere on this side here, not at the point, because when I end it, I want to come up and then down and meet where I started. So I'm just going to put this down, and then I'm just going to start sewing. Let me bring this down a little bit more. And when I think I'm about a 1/4 inch from the end, I'm just going to pick my foot up and turn it. Now, as you see, this doesn't really line up. So I'm just going to go back and go down one more stitch. And then that meets perfectly. And I do that all the way through because it's really hard to figure out where your stitch is going to end. And the same with my points. One more, I think. Okay. Perfect. Maybe one more. Okay. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to continue to sew this all the way around. And then when I get done, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I have that all quilted down. And what I did again was I just went around and I did some echo quilting all along my star points. And then I did a stitch in the ditch all the way around the center block. And that should give me enough quilting on this that, you know, when it's washed, it's not going to move because you're also going to quilt your blocks together. So you'll have this stitched also. And then this is the back, and I think it looks really pretty with the star. You can see the star and the center block, and that looks really nice too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to trim this down to hopefully 11 inches. But let's see what we have, because as we know, when we stitch it, sometimes it shrinks, shrinks up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my ruler and let's see what we have. So 11 inches would be right here. Let me see if I have 11 inches all the way around. And I don't. I'm a little short up the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim mine down to 10 3/4. So how I'm going to do that is so that I get an equal amount on all sides. I'm going to put it at 10 3/4 and then add another 1/8 to it. Right about there. Okay. So I'm on 10 3/4 and another 1/8. And same with here, 10 3/4 and another 1/8. So I'm going to trim that down first. And I'm going to flip it. And now I'm going to put it on 10 3/4 all the way around. And that will allow me to trim up equal amount on all sides. Okay. So there we have our block. Really cute. I love the smaller star within the block. So I'm going to grab my sashing and I'll show you how we're going to sash these together. Okay, so I have 2 blocks here, and for my sashing, I'm going to use a 1 inch that's going to go on the back, and then I have a 2 inch, which I folded in half and ironed, and that's going to go on the front. So Let's put the back on first. We're going to lay this right sides together. I'm going to line this up. And I cut mine a little bigger than my block, just so I have enough room. When I sew, I will cut that before I join my next block. And then I'm going to take this top one with raw edges together, and I'm going to line that one up too. You can pin this or clip it or just hold it when you go to your machine. Totally up to you. I'm going to clip mine. Making sure it stays lined up. And I'm going to look at the back, make sure we didn't. Okay, perfect. All right, so then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch all the way down. Okay, so now we have that all sewn down, and they should meet right in the middle, and they do. So what you want to do now is take this top piece and you're going to fold this over, and I'm going to iron that so it stays. And now what I do is I take this to the machine. I'm going to top stitch all the way down. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I top stitched that down, and I just did about a little less than an eighth, I guess. It might be an eighth. And then here's the back. And you just have this stitching right down here. And that's what the back looks like. So now what you would do is just continue. If you're doing the sashing, just continue the same method as this and just add to your blocks. And then when you're done, however many blocks you want in your row, you would just do the same application to attach your rows on down with the 2 inch in the front and the 1 inch in the back. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this block, and I hope it gave you an idea for a cute little Christmas quilt. And this is the one I did with the sashing in between. And this is just some four blocks that I did. I haven't quilted these yet, but just to give you an idea what it might look like without sashing. So either way, I think it's an adorable little quilt. And I really like this little star block. And you don't have to worry about cutting points off because you have plenty of fabric around it. So if you enjoyed that, I hope you give it a thumbs up. And if you're new, I hope you subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know when my next video comes out. And until I see you again in my next video, happy sewing and sew something happy.